The Hatzilu Rescue Organization has been servicing Nassau County's poor for more than 30 years. Alan Levine is the president of Hatzilu. He's been president for the last 5 years. He coordinates the efforts of the organization throughout Nassau County. He's got more than 30 years of experience in his day job in the publishing and sales industry, and he's worked with many of the Fortune 500 companies to develop effective marketing programs. And at this point, I'll turn the floor over to Alan, and I will try to mute everybody.
Awesome.
Alan, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Okay, everyone got me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Keith, thanks for that introduction. It sounds much more important than I really am, but whoops, of course. Isn't that ironic? Yes, so as Keith mentioned, my day job is I still am a working soul here on the North Shore of Long Island. I live in Jericho with my wife. I have 2 adult children. My 24-year-old daughter just moved back out of the house today, back to Manhattan. Jake, let me call you back, dude. No problem. Okay. I have a married son and daughter-in-law who also live in Manhattan. I've been in Jericho for 27 years. I'm current member of Temple Or Elohim, a Reform synagogue here in Jericho. As Keith mentioned, I have been president of Hatzilu for 5 years. It's been probably the most rewarding experience of my life, working with dedicated people like Joe Sklar and Sandy has just been a just absolute pleasure, bringing needy relief to families who are suffering here in Nassau County. You see the first slide has my name, but more importantly, it's got my contact information. That's my cell number right there, as well as my email address. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me after today's talk, feel free to reach out to either of those. You can get me through Joe as well, or Sandy, or even Keith now knows how to get in touch with me. But very much appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone today. I think probably the goal today, I probably have 2 people in the audience today, some that know very well about Hatzilu, some that have some understanding of what Hatzilu is. So I'll take a few minutes, kind of go through a couple of slides here, bringing everybody up to speed on who we are, what we do, who we serve, but then certainly would love some feedback from the group. And hopefully at the end of it, you have a better understanding of what we do at the organization on a day-to-day basis. So moving along, and Keith mentioned too, it a little bit in the introduction, Hatzilu was actually established in 1976, so it's been around for quite a long time. And it was originally developed out in the Bronx and then moved out to Nassau County shortly thereafter. And really it was developed in reaction to what synagogues, men's clubs and sisterhoods and youth clubs were seeing in the community, which is a need amongst Jewish families for support. You know, everyone says, oh, Nassau County, nobody needs help in Nassau County, but that is clearly not the case. There are plenty of people in need here, very much in our own community, who the organization was developed for to really help them maintain their dignity. And the word rescue is important in our title because we really are designed, and our goal is really to be a rescue organization where we can really just kind of jump in to a situation, a family situation, and then jump out once they've gotten back on their feet. It doesn't always work like that, and we've had clients who we've worked with for years, but also many clients that just fallen on hard times for a variety of reasons, and I'll talk a few of those. Get them back on their way. So I came to the organization. The president of the organization at that point came to our temple and did a presentation. I went up to her afterwards and was a time of my life that I wanted to get involved in doing more good in the neighborhood, and joined on board. 6 months later, she had to retire. And 2 weeks later, I became president of the organization. So it's, like I said, it's really been a wonderful and meaningful experience for me to be involved with these folks. Our client outreach primarily is through a number of sources, community organizations, i.e. JCCs on the North Shore and South Shore. And just again, to reiterate, we operate only in Nassau County. We are very finely fixated on helping families only in Nassau County, which makes it easier for us because it's pinpointed. That's where our volunteer network is, as well as it doesn't stretch our resources as wide as if it was in Suffolk or Queens and so on. So we get, again, our client referrals from community organizations, from social workers in the community as well, and rabbis. I know Rabbi Warmflesh had been the rabbi there for a while. I know Rabbi Resnick is there now, but all up and down the county, we're in touch with rabbis. They're the ones on the front line that really, in a lot of cases, get the first idea of where families may need assistance, and then they'll reach out to us. And we then do a pretty intense intake process. So clients are required to fill out an application and submit it. We ask them for quite a bit of detailed information as to their need. Not that we're cynical, but just that we feel that it is an appropriate way for them to sort of step up on their end to fill out some paperwork in order for us to step up on our end to help them. Our help comes in a couple of different ways. We offer food support, and we operate a food pantry out of the South Baldwin Jewish Center, right down in your neck of the woods, where we have the kosher kitchen. We have perishable items and non-perishable items. We operate a large freezer and refrigerator, and that's sort of the nerve center, if you will, of our food support. We also uniquely offer financial support. Financial support, not significant financial support, if you will, but money here and there to help our clients get by. Because a lot of them, as it says here, live on very, very limited funds that don't cover their daily needs. But again, our support is somewhat limited. And I always say that it does two things. One is helps pay a cable bill, an electric bill, something to that extent. But it also makes our clients feel like somebody cares about them. So $50 a month, $100 a month, $250 a month to make them feel better about themselves, that there's an organization out there that helps them, as well as helping them get by. Our social welfare workers also give emotional support. And that's one of the unique things about Hatzilu versus some of the other food programs you hear in the news all the time, is we really do have a relationship with our clients. So our food deliverers will establish their relationships with the client. They'll understand very much their dietary requirements, and they'll really develop a one-on-one relationship with them. Clients don't come to our food pantry, we go out to them. So we can also therefore service clients that are homebound. But it really is not only food, not only financial, but because of this unique one-on-one relationship, we really do offer emotional support. And I must tell you that of my 3 clients, they love our financial support, they love our food support, but they love talking. And I get them on the phone sometimes, and you can tell that that is what they care for the most. It's just somebody to talk to them, listen to them, commiserate with them, particularly during pandemic times. But it really is a unique part of the Hatzilu experience, is that we do have this one-on-one relationship with our clients. And as I see here on the top of my slide, what can you do to help? And I know that the temple there has been incredibly engaged with us. We have had just a great experience with the organization. A lot, Joe's driving that, but even before Joe, it's just been a good relationship, and we appreciate that. But there's always opportunity for people to step up and do more. And that's where you can use my contact information, reach out to me. And again, it could just be a food deliverer. It could go as far as being a social welfare committee member. It could be executive officers down the road, but we're always looking for new volunteers to work with us on a day-to-day basis. Any thoughts, questions, comments? No. Okay. As I mentioned, we operate the.
How many people, how many clients are you involved with in total?
Good question, Martin. So from a financial standpoint, we're supporting about 60 clients right now with financial support. In terms of our food programs, we reach about 250 individuals, which is roughly about 105, 110 families all throughout the county. And we will offer food services to anybody who asks, regardless of race or ethnicity. We do that because we think that's the right thing to do. We do that also because we accept food from Long Island Cares and Island Harvest. And because of that, we need to be sort of non-denominational. Our financial support, on the other hand, is limited to Jewish families only.
Steve, how does the work that you do intersect with Federation work? Because I know some of what they do is sounds awfully similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And also Metropolitan Council on Poverty, which I know one of their big things is food.
Yep, Rabbi. So in terms of the Federation does support us. We have a loose relationship with them, if you will. I guess the way I put it is they don't do the in the trenches kind of support that I think Hatzilu does, meaning getting out to the individual clients, right? So Federation donates a lot of money. We just, at the onset of the pandemic, when the Federation was looking to step up their giving, they gave to us. But the way it works, Rabbi, is they give us a block grant, and then we go and we buy food and distribute it to our clients. So we're almost like a, I don't know, feeder network, if you will, from Federation, if you will. And again, their giving has been sporadic. We like I said, at the beginning of the pandemic, they came to us and gave us a nice grant to increase food purchase and food delivery, which was needed, obviously. But there have been other times, quite frankly, where they've frustrated us a little bit, where we haven't been able to get there because we're like the little guy and they sort of work in a bigger universe. You mentioned the council. It's the same. Yeah. I don't think we've had much contact with them, to be honest with you, unless Joe knows otherwise.
Thank you.
Quick question. Is it all volunteer, or you have any?
We are, Martin, we are all volunteers. However, we do have one executive director that sits at the JCC, the Mid-Island JCC in Plainview. And if you note here, my top bullet point on this slide shows that we also operate out of their food pantry. So for many years, we operated solely out of South Baldwin. The Mid-Island Y JCC was always where our executive director sat. So she is a paid employee. We pay the JCC there for office space, some other clerical matter, as well as a certain percentage of the hourly work week for this executive director.
Just to jump in a minute about Med Council, I believe they're all in New York City. I believe that's their area. That's why we have no contact with them.
Right, I think that, gotcha, thanks.
So a couple of years ago, Martin, just to finish, the the JCC in Plainview opened their own food pantry, and they were nice enough because of our relationship to extend it to us as well. So it's made it a bit easier for some of our North Shore food deliverers and clients to service their clients out of the Plainview facility versus going down to Baldwin and coming back. But it's only a handful of people, but it's been a nice relationship with them so that we can share the facility there if need be. Okay. People do tend to ask, who do we support? It is a host of people in various situations. For instance, a Holocaust survivor, we donate, I shouldn't say, we grant money for them to be able to pay their rent and deliver food for them. A father who's battling cancer and has a daughter who has developmental disabilities, we help them pay an electric bill. A woman who has chronic illness, who receives a grant from us so she can purchase medication. And nowadays, a lot of people who are unemployed or underemployed, and we just help them pay their bills. And again, there are instances where we run into people who are thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in arrears, and we can't help that. But again, in some cases, a cell phone bill, and a cell phone could be a lifeline for these people to the real world. Cable bill, same thing. So, you know, we're there for them. We can help them literally with grant, but also make them feel as if there's someone out there who cares about them and their situation. So I like to give this, I mean, these folks are classic examples of people who we help. You know, I have another client. It was a couple, the wife had a very successful job in Manhattan, became ill, couldn't work. Husband worked in the garment district. Well, that business is not like it used to be. He lost his job. They went from probably middle to upper middle class with, by the way, a special needs child, to the wife losing her job, the husband losing his job, and having them dealing with their disabled child. It can happen to anybody. And that's the one thing that just strikes me, is that we are all, thank God, right now, fine. But circumstances can change so quickly, particularly in pandemic times, that Hatzilu is there for people like that. And, you know, that's what we do. That's what we bring to the community. It really is an incredible, dedicated group of people. So not only do we have our food deliverers, we have an entire committee of social welfare workers, which Joe's a part of and Sandy's a part of and I'm a part of, who literally are the people who work with our clients on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. We're in touch with them. We understand what their needs are, and we help them, whether it be food, whether it be financial. And this committee meets once a month for 2 hours. We go around the room and everybody talks about their clients and where they are, what they need. Part of the vetting process, do we bring this person on? Do we let this person go? But it's a very detailed process. It's an important process, and it's a very dedicated process to what Hatzilu does. And again, it just continues to blow my mind about how many dedicated people there are that are out there. So, you know, I guess in a nutshell, if you will, this is kind of what we do, how we do it. We are, again, always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for donations. We're always looking for good ideas to better our services. But I think the goal for me today was to kind of just let everybody know what we do, how important what we do is, particularly in these times. And for us, Joe and I talk about it all the time, the way that we can build Hatzilu and keep Hatzilu relevant is to have talks like this at the temple and synagogue level, because it's the people who are on this call and your fellow congregants, really that are the lifeblood of what we do. Without that support, we can't do what we do. We don't have federal funding. We don't any of that. So for us, this is a wonderful opportunity. If I could do this 5 days a week to all the different temples across the county, it would be great. So to be able to spread the word, to let people know what we do, how we do it, who we help, is critical. And in reality, it's not that much more complicated than that, right? It's just a bunch of really dedicated people who want to help people in their own community who are falling on hard times. And that's exactly what we do. So, you know, I don't know if I have anything more magical to say, except, you know, appreciate the opportunity, but I'd love to open it up and chat a little bit more about, you know, how we do it. And if somebody has any specific ideas, let's do it. Let's talk about it and let's make life better for people if we can.
Steve, first of all, thank you very much. I knew nothing about Hatzilu coming from Teaneck, New Jersey. Until I met Joe, the first thing he did was gave me a brochure about Hatzilu. In terms of your reach regarding volunteers, not necessarily dollars, but volunteers, have you ever connected with, you know, any of the youth groups, be it BBYO or USY or NIFTY? Because I know like a lot of high school kids are looking for chesed hours and social service stuff. And I know it's COVID out there now, but I'm curious in general, has that been a market that you've tried to connect with?
It hasn't aggressively, Rabbi, but what it would do, which is our biggest pressing need and the organization, is to bring in younger members and get kids excited about it. We do have a B'nai Mitzvah program. We just had a wonderful experience with a young man from, was it your synagogue?
I'm Echad. It's
Oh, I'm sorry, Echad,
synagogue.
who did their B'nai Mitzvah project was to collect goods for the pantry there. But Rabbi, it's sort of been hit or miss, right? We haven't spoken to groups like you mentioned. And if you have some ideas about that, where I can sit and talk with people to get a more widespread coverage, that would be great. The B'nai Mitzvah program, I think, is wonderful, but we just haven't been able to get traction. I don't know if it's, we just compete against other charitable, you know, activities that kids are involved in. But you should see, Joe sent me, there was a story in the Lynbrook paper the other day about this young man's effort, you know, household goods. He raised and got donated 2 truckloads worth of household goods that we drove over to the pantry. And it was fantastic. I mean, it was just fantastic. And this is just one kid. So Rabbi, if you have ideas about that, I'd love, and connections where I can, you know, meet some people who could spread the word. I'd love that opportunity.
Great. So I'll think about it with Joe a little bit.
Okay.
Quick question, when you say about household goods, I mean, are you thinking about things they need physically in the house, like pots, pans? I'm just wondering what you're.
Yeah, no, Martin, good question. Sorry. No, household goods, I'm sorry. I mean by like paper goods, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, things like that. Things that are not as easily covered with SNAP. You know, people think more of food and things like that. So the household cleaning supplies, again, particularly now during pandemic, is what I was talking about. We don't really delve into, you know, furniture and things like that. I mean, we just don't have the space really to get the goods and then sort of reroute them out to our clients. Coats, sweater, you know, things like that. My client needed a warm weather coat a couple months ago. In the social welfare meeting, I mentioned it. One person said, hey, I got a couple extra coats, brought them to the Y and I got them to my client. But that's more what I mean with the B'nai Mitzvah project.
I have a question from the from like a priority standpoint, what would you
Yes.
guys be looking for in donations? What's best? Is it cash? Is it household goods? Is it food? What's, if you had to prioritize it, where would you put it?
Good one. It probably ebbs and flows a little bit, right? Cash can always be converted into the other two items. So, so monetary donations is probably number one. And then again, we wait for can sales and things like that, and we'll go and we'll buy tuna fish and things like that, and can convert it to other items that we need. That said, we've had people and organizations step up and donate food to us. So that's also welcome. And we also need people, you know, we need bodies. Can't say that enough. Food deliverer, getting involved in some of the committees and being involved in the day-to-day, that's also. But to answer your question, probably financial donation, food donation, and then human capital donation.
Got it. Got it. As a follow-up to that, I mean, how big a budget is it? What do you get in annually in donations, dollars versus items and goods?
Yeah, we probably, our budget annually is about $150,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
This is a question really for Joe. Joe, a few years ago, Carol Rubenstein was in some video. Was that her working with Hatzilu?
Yes, Carol is currently involved with Hatzilu, and that was one of our big successes, a client who was doing very well and no longer needs our help. And that is our aim. If we can help some of our younger clients no longer need our help. For an older person who's on Social Security, it's unlikely that will accomplish that aim.
Mm.
So the goal really is, if we can, especially like Joe said, with the younger clients, if we can, oh, my internet's a little unstable. If we can get them back on their feet and then sort of let them go, if you will, that's our best case scenario. That's really what we're dedicated to doing, if can be. But there are some instances where there's just older clients where we just know we're going to have them, and we're happy to, probably forever.
Mm.
Carol is still an active member of our Social Welfare Committee.
Right. She is a unique and extraordinary person, really.
She is.
Yes.
Lisa, it inspires me every single day working with the people in this organization.
Mm.
It is, they are incredibly dedicated people who care, are committed, regardless of pandemic. We have not skipped a beat, our organization. Yeah. If anything, we've stepped it up in light of the pandemic. And, you know, I'm a little bit younger than a lot of the folks on the organization, and it's refreshing for me to see that there are people out there that do this and care. And like I said, I wasn't overstating it. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Alan, if I could ask you a technical question and then
Yes,
a non-technical question. If you're not going to need the screen sharing anymore, perhaps you can get rid of it so then you would appear a little larger. And then number two, I had not realized until today that you were limited to Nassau County. Are there similar organizations in other suburbs like Suffolk or Westchester?
I know that there is another organization in Suffolk that I've bumped into and met. Joe, is it Lend a Hand? They just changed their name recently, right?
Helping Hands, I think, or Machad Liyad, is that it?
Yeah, Keith, I can get you the specifics, but they're an organization that works in Suffolk County. Westchester, I'm not familiar with.
All right, thank you.
But we're pretty tight about that because, again, it's the mission of the organization, and it just keeps us focused. I think if we spread out, it would make our task a little bit more difficult.
I think it's also the fact that before the pandemic, when we had a client, we used to visit with the client and
Right.
go there, and keeping it inside Nassau County made that easier.
Right. Right. You said you had another question, Keith?
No, one was the technical for the screen sharing, and the non-technical was about other locations.
Yep.
An interesting fact that people in the synagogue probably don't know is that the food that we collect does not go to Hatzilu. The food that we collect goes to another food bank in Far Rockaway that we had a very long relationship with through Phyllis Nadler.
Yeah, there was an article in Hakol about that about 2 years ago, and I went with Sandy actually to visit that food bank. They actually take the food we send them and prepare it and feed vast numbers of people every day. I don't know what's happening now with the pandemic, but it was very impressive.
Lisa.
Yeah.
2 things. The canned goods and stuff that we collect at the temple, we take to a Jewish organization in Far Rockaway. The vegetable garden stuff, we take to a soup kitchen where they use it.
Oh, we are so impressive.
The funny thing is the 2 places are about 2 blocks apart, but they're 2 separate organizations. The soup kitchen provides services predominantly to a Black and Hispanic community.
Right.
The food bank place is predominantly a Jewish community, but I think anybody can get, it's canned goods and stuff like that.
Right. So like good Jewish people, we're always concerned that people have food, more food and more food.
Correct.
But we also supply other things. For instance, I just got a client recently who really, in many ways, is isolated. No radio, no television. We're sending her a small grant so she can go out and buy a radio to have something to entertain herself while she's at home.
Wow.
Right. And I just bought my client a new TV because his TV blew out. Mind you, it was a $99 TV, but nevertheless, that was his connection to the outdoor world. And without these things, the things that we take for granted, it is life-saving in so many cases. So yeah, Sandy, we bought the radio, we bought a TV. We've done in the past dental work because somebody was having trouble getting a job because they couldn't present themselves well, and we paid for some basic dental services to get them up and running. So we really, again, our goal is to get people connected and up and running as best we can, whatever their circumstances could be. We've paid for educational classes or test taking, civil service test taking over the years. Again, it's not just food, it's not just money. We're really trying to get people back up to speed.
We have a number of clients who have mental health issues, and sometimes they have very difficult relationship with their families, and we provide people who don't have that same relationship with them and are able to help them, and yeah, that's very worthwhile. Some of them they really can't function too well. They can't work. And perhaps they're on Social Security disability. Sometimes their families help them, but the interpersonal relationships sometimes with their families are very difficult. And we're always there to help them.
And in a lot of cases, or some cases, it's just also where they can turn for help that we can't provide. So they don't know how to fill out paperwork for disability insurance, or they need legal assistance because they're in the midst of a divorce and they can't move forward. There's been many times where we've been able to connect them to pro bono legal work, things like that. So again, that to me is really the uniqueness of Hatzilu. Again, there's lots of good being done out there, particularly now we see in the papers all all the time, every day, every week. But the food bank here, but Hatzilu creates this one-on-one relationship, if you will. And to me, that's what's priceless about what we do. And
What does the word Hatzilu mean?
rescue. And that's one of the misnomers, right? So, you know, we're not in theory supposed to just bring somebody on and support them for the next 40 years. It's really not our mission. A lot of times we'll take a client on, we'll offer them food, they'll take it or they won't take it. But in terms of the financial support, quite often what we'll do is we'll say, let's take them on. We'll look at their financial situation and we'll agree to a 3-month or 6-month initial period of time, at which point then we'll reevaluate them to see where they're at. Because again, our goal is to try to, you know, get them back off Hatzilu, you know, support and back on their feet.
Folks, I need to run, but thank you, Steve, very much. And just one last bit of Torah. So the same root for Hatzilu is in the word matzil, which is the Hebrew word for lifeguard. Also kind of like watching, saving, guarding. And it's the same kind of 3-letter root as Hatzilu. Anyway, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thanks for that. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
I'm trying to think, Joe, what else about our organization?
Well, the main things that we do, we try to sustain families that have these pressing needs and really have nowhere else to turn. People on Social Security and their income just doesn't match their minimum expenses. I mean, if you can't afford a radio and you're stuck inside during a pandemic, that's very difficult. Or sometimes they're just short by $100 or $200 a month, and the money we give them sustains them, so they don't always feel that they're on the edge. That you know, that whether they should cut back on food, they should cut back on heat, cut back on electric, and their credit bills are often very high, and because they're almost maxed out on them. So these are people that we help. One of my clients has right now has a small business, and where he has to go into people's houses, and he's just not getting any calls. And so he's hoping the business will pick up once the pandemic is over.
COVID, unfortunately, has been good for our business, which is not a good thing, but it has pushed people further out there and feeling helpless. And the need is out there. It even surprised me. I wasn't naive to think that Nassau County didn't have needy Jewish families, but I was a little bit shocked to the level of need that was out there. And I still encounter it when I talk to friends and colleagues, you know, Jewish needy families in Nassau County, ha, 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 you got to be kidding me. But I will attest that the need is out there and the need is legitimate.
I wanted to interrupt. I can't overemphasize how lonely and isolated some of the clients are. I will be in the same room or another room listening to Joe talk to one of his elderly clients. And she is so lonely. Joe seems to be the lifeline to her world. And they'll go on and they'll go on and they'll go on and they'll go on. And I'll come in and I'll look at my watch indicating, hey, honey, we missed dinner by about a half hour. But it's so important to have this human touch instead of just sending a check. That's all.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's, I find that too with my interactions. They just want to talk, you know, my clients just want to kind of talk to me, see what's new. They complain a lot, but that's okay. I'm okay. It makes me kind of realize a little bit more how good I have it, which we all do. And that's where we can all give a little bit. So yeah, listen, if there's anybody who has I mean, we sort of prefer a social worker background to sit on the social welfare committee. So you're a little bit more versed in it, but if you or somebody you know wants to get involved in that part of it, that to me is incredibly rewarding. It's not my background at all. I'm a business guy, always have been. It's a new world for me. I have to ask questions all the time, but that's where you really feel like you're making a difference. You can write a check, that's okay. You can donate some food, that's great. But man, if you want to get your feet really into it and your fingers dirty, come join our social welfare group and really make a difference. That's for sure. All right.
Any other questions? All right, Alan, let me thank you again on behalf of the synagogue. Very eye-opening talk. I hope some of our listeners are moved to help you. And let me mention in the weeks to come that we're having a talk next week by Dr. Jonathan Altis about the COVID epidemic. The week after will be Lisa Cohn. I believe her talk is going to be a little more uplifting and hopeful.
Well, I'll be
Good
talking
poems.
about poetry, and we've all seen at the inauguration that poetry can be uplifting, but also it can deal with actual real issues. So the basic thing is I'm going to talk about poetry, not the way your English teacher did.
Even though Lisa was an English teacher for many years. And then Rabbi Warmflash will be speaking. Juliana Portnoy, Rabbi Schlesinger's wife, is scheduled to talk in March. And the last one that I have scheduled right now is our Chazan. She's going to be speaking March 8th. So we're continuing to provide interesting talks, I hope. And let me thank Joe, first of all, for recommending Alan, and Alan for his talk. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was very professional. Really appreciate your support and spending the time and letting us tell our story. And please pass the word. If anybody individually wants to talk with me or Joe, I'm always willing and able. Again, my cell number was on the first slide, but Keith and Joe and Sandy know how to get in touch with me. I'm happy to talk to anybody, even if you are yourself in need or you know somebody in need, not necessarily just to donate, but if you know somebody that is hurting right now, reach out to us. Client reach out is critical for us. We never feel like we're in all the places we need to be. So talks like this are important, from the obvious, understand who we are, donation, but also if you know anybody who's in need, please confidentially, they can come straight to me if they don't want to deal with anybody in the temple, and everything would be kept completely confidential.
I've mentioned this to Rabbi Resnick, and he has advertised that if people need help, that they should get in touch with him. I work very closely with Rabbi Warmflash, and he also knew that we were available.
Yeah. So Keith, thanks again. Awesome.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody. Stay warm. And I will talk to all of you at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.